EA Sports has announced the first title update for College Football 27. Now, we knew to expect this because they had already mentioned it previously a little bit, and we know we always get the first title update about a week or two after the game is launched due to things they were working on even before the game came out. Now, we got a lot to go over today. There's some good gameplay changes, some good dynasty changes, and yes, they even to some degree have finally budged on some of the stuff we've been asking about in terms of coach progression in Dynasty, but I will say it's still not enough. So hey, we're going to face cam for a little bit. I know I'm kind of trying to do it a little more on the channel. Let me know if you like it or not. So this is what they posted on their forums. Usually the first small update, this is what they do. They put it on the forums. It's not like a blog post or something like that because this is, smaller. This isn't the first big title update, but there are important changes. So looking at gameplay, it says on the gameplay front, we're still collecting your feedback to help inform future tuning, but two topics have our immediate attention, pancake blocks and the switch stick. We definitely see conversations around pancake blocks happening more than you would like, and we agree. We're actively investigating the issue and we'll share more details once we've completed testing and have an update. For the switch stick, we've seen reports of a slight delay when switching defenders. We've identified the issue and are targeting a fix in a future title update. Now, those are some good things to hear about. Now, in terms of the pancake blocks, the run game is great this year, and I like that. I think the run game should be good in college. I think the last 2 years, at times, it wasn't as good. It's really good this year. The pancake blocks are especially good when people are trying to come out in like those dollar and dime sets, and you're in more heavy personnel with two tight ends, under center. You should get the pancakes in the situation, and in years past, we aren't able to do that, and that was bad. But the problem is, and I've seen it in time that I've played, I've seen it with other people streaming it, there's pancakes happening just when they shouldn't be. They're happening even when you do have the correct defensive personnel on the field. Not saying that DBs should never get pancaked even in some of those situations, but it's like linebackers and things like that. It's happening too often. So that is a good fix. But now we got to move on to some important stuff. Dynasty here. So it says we've seen a lot of discussion around Dynasty recruiting, particularly around higher rated recruits going without offers during the recruiting cycle. After investigating, we've identified several contributing factors and are actively working on improvements, including adjusting recruiting tuning to improve how CPU teams compete for highly rated recruits, improving how CPU teams prioritize and retain recruits after extending offers, addressing late cycle recruiting scenarios that can leave recruits without viable offers, and adjusting recruit generation and recruiting balance to better reflect expected recruiting distributions. These improvements are a top priority for us and we're working to get them into your hands as quickly as possible. We're targeting next week for these improvements to be available. Keep sharing what you're seeing as more players jump into Dynasty. Most importantly, our goal is to always keep you playing your current Dynasty whenever possible. For this upcoming title update, you will not need to start a new Dynasty. Once the update is installed, these recruiting improvements will take effect as you advance into your next season. All good news there. The recruiting was really the main issue that Dynasty was having in terms of just how the mode itself was running. Hopefully this fixes or at least addresses most of those issues there for people that are playing Dynasty. Now here's the big one, Dynasty progression. Let's check in on the update with the CFB play don't play movement. We've been talking about it. They put microtransactions in. We didn't like that, but at the very least, put back the sliders. They took away the faster progression. We want that back. We got some movement, which is good, but I think more still needs to be done here. So it says, we've seen a lot of conversations and feedback around your coach progression and Dynasty difficulty. Coach progression in College 27 is built as a long-term career arc. Coach XP requirements remain the same as College Football 26, and the growth still comes from your coach archetype perks coaching staff over the course of your Dynasty. Dynasty Blueprint deepens that progression by putting more weight on the decisions that build and sustain a program across multiple seasons. To give players more control over progression pace, we are adding new Coach XP speed settings in the upcoming title update. It says we know players want more control over the pace of coach progression, and we're adding the flexibility back in an upcoming title update. Casual, fastest coach progression, 1.5 XP, equivalent to the faster setting from College Football 26, best for players who want to unlock abilities quickly and accelerate growth. Now, it's important to note here, we got them to move, which is good. It only took 2 days, and we saw yesterday they were kind of standing on, like, not changing anything, and a day later, they've already changed their tune a little bit, which I was trying to tell some of you, we can make them change this if we stand firm. I'm not saying they're going to revert every last thing that they did, but we can definitely get change. And I think we could get more than this because basically what they've done is they've brought back the faster setting from last year, but they're renaming it fastest and they're being open about it. They're not even trying to hide it. They're saying, hey, we're bringing back fastest, but it's equivalent to faster last year, which means there's no equivalent to whatever the fastest was last year. So it's still not what we had previously. And until you add that, people are going to say, you're pushing us to spend money if it's not how it was previously. So I think we still need that added back. There's simulation now, which is balanced coach progression, which this sounds like it's faster than what the normal setting is now. Best for players looking for a realistic pace while still progressing faster than the default experience. Then we've got career, which is authentic long-term coach progression equivalent to the college football 27 default. So that should mean that this is equivalent to what normal is now. Best for players who want the full Dynasty Blueprint experience, where every coach point and coaching decision carries more weight over the course of Dynasty. Now there's some good here. They gave us two settings that are faster than what normal was, but they didn't give us back the fastest, the true fastest. And in my opinion, look, I've told you, I'm not the biggest Dynasty guy. I played here or there. I don't even go into these types of settings when I do play it. However, until you give back the exact fastest as it was last year, it's going to look like in any way that you are pushing people towards paying money if you want the fastest progression. That's just how it's going to look. When you put microtransactions in, that's how people are going to view it now. But I'm glad that we got them to move. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm not appreciative of the fact that we did get them to make some change, but I still think more change needs to come. It needs to be what it was before. If you're looking for a challenging rebuild with a smaller program, we recommend playing on career to experience Dynasty Blueprint as it was designed. If you'd rather progress through your coach's abilities more quickly, casual and simulation provide faster progression while preserving the overall Dynasty experience. Note that Coach XP speed settings are available in both online and offline Dynasty. In online Dynasty, league commissioners control the Coach XP speed setting for the entire league. Coach XP accelerators, which are the microtransactions, are an optional feature available in online only. Commissioners can enable or disable the coach level purchase setting for their league, and they are not available in offline Dynasty. After this update hits, let us know how the settings feel. We'll look closely at your feedback on this one. I'm just going to say what people are already thinking again. It has to be how it was before. So look, it took 2 days, we got him to budge. I think we could get him to budge more, especially when we go to Road to Glory, because it doesn't look like much is changing here. It says, for position battles, we've seen reports from players who selected the edge in Road to Glory, not triggering position battles to move up the depth chart. The team identified the issue and are planning a fix for the next title update. Progression, we've also seen questions around Road to Glory progression. Progression has been redesigned around earning weekly XP through gameplay and upgrading individual ratings and abilities throughout your career. As part of this redesign, with progression being tied to gameplay performance, players are rewarded more XP by playing on higher difficulty settings. Depending on your starting recruit level and performance on the field, you can generally expect to reach the mid to high 90s by your junior year. You can still reach 99 overall through gameplay alone. Your chosen career path affects how quickly you get there. A 5-star elite recruit will progress faster than a 2-star underdog, but your performance on the field ultimately is the biggest factor in your overall progression. Focusing energy on areas like leadership and fitness can help boost progression over the course of your career. Wear and tear also plays an important role in Road to Glory because it's a core part of the weekly player management. Progression is balanced around wear and tear being enabled. Wear and tear can be disabled, but doing so reduces XP gained to offset the gameplay advantage of no longer needing to manage your player's health. We want to reiterate that these are just some of the topics the teams have been tracking and are actively working on. Be on the lookout for the next week campus huddle. And I just want to interject right here because as I was editing, I thought about this. To my knowledge, in NCAA 14, you actually got more points for playing on easier difficulties. Now, I know that might seem kind of weird because you would think, well, if I'm playing on a harder difficulty, I should be rewarded more. And I definitely see that side of it too. I think I can see this both ways. But I think the idea in the past and in previous games was if you're like a kid, let's say, would be a good example, and you're playing on easy difficulties because you're just not as good at the game, you want to still be able to progress pretty fastly and have fun in the mode. I think previously you would look at this and say, well, the mode was just basically being designed around how you want to play. Do you want to progress fast, slow? You can make it your own game. You can put the difficulty where you want. That's where XP sliders come in. Then you can adjust those and you can get the experience you want. That's how it was designed. And then when you factor in that they give you less XP for wear and tear, some people simply don't like it. It's not the most balanced thing in the game. We've had some issues with it. Some people rather just turn it off, but now it penalizes you. And then it just starts feeling like all these little things are happening because they're designing it more with the microtransactions in mind versus just playing how you want to play. So no XP sliders were even added for Road to Glory. And look, I understand the entire mode has been redesigned this year in a way that it's a different player builder. There's different things. I understand that, but you got to do something there. You got to be able to let them progress faster because, again, you're creating this friction now where before it was easier to progress. You know, saying that you can play on the field well and upgrade crazy, I mean, it's not that true. If people are winning back-to-back Heismans and are like, dude, you win a back-to-back Heisman, you would be a 99 overall. That doesn't seem like it's possible from what people are saying. So there still needs to be more give there on EA's end, in my opinion. And look, this is what I said on Twitter earlier. I said we got movement, but it still misses the mark. The fastest option as it was last year is still not here. Anything less than the progression that was there previously makes it look like we are being incentivized to spend money. Road to Glory also appears to have not changed at all. These are offline single player modes. Why are we creating friction that previously wasn't there? If you simply wanted to make progression harder, that's one thing. You can't make it harder while also introducing a new way to spend money to bypass it. That's not a coincidence, that's strategic friction. Now going forward, we can only assume the modes are being designed with this intent in mind if you do not change things back to how they were. And in terms of Road to Glory, Bordeaux had some good points to make on this earlier too. He said these design choices inside of 27 are really hard to ignore due to EA's recent decisions. If I start a Road to Glory as a 5-star pure runner QB in 27, my overall is only a 73. In 26, with that same build, my overall would start as an 80. You would also have some physical abilities already unlocked and upgraded in 26 as a higher rated recruit, but even as a 5-star in 27, I'm starting college with 0. The microtransactions are out of order for me, and I'm trying to figure out why they're sorted this way. Dynasty defaults to online now instead of offline like it did in 26. It only gives you reasons to select online, which is the one with microtransactions. When you double down on your stance and you lose the trust you have built within the community, the smaller things that I would never question are seen in a much different light. Do what's right. Now that brings us to the sports gaming online articles. I think they did a really good article on this today. It says, this is what they're saying here in this article is how like a company might be looking at this. Where are players already spending time? Where is progression already being tracked? Where can friction be introduced or preserved? Where can convenience be sold? This is why career and dynasty style progression systems are so tempting from a monetization standpoint. Dynasty already has coach progression, Road to Glory already has player progression. Franchise and superstar modes already have attributes, upgrades, unlocks, and time investment. From a business perspective, those systems are not just gameplay loops, they are potential storefronts. That is the part players are reacting to. And this is another good point here. It says, EA's own pre-order messaging shows how far progression rewards have moved beyond Ultimate Team. The standard edition of College 27 included 100 Dynasty coach points and 250 Road to Glory skill points. The Deluxe Edition and MVP bundle included similar bonuses, while MVP Plus membership included 150 Dynasty coach points and an exclusive Dynasty skill tree and 500 Road to Glory points. That is not the same thing as selling Ultimate Team packs. That is progression value being attached to modes many players view as single player or traditional career experience. And that is where the controversy sits. For a lot of sports gamers, Dynasty and Road to Glory are not side modes. That's an important distinction here. These are reasons to buy the game. They're where players build a coach, develop a program, chase recruits, create storylines, and play through years of progression. So when players see paid points and paid accelerators or progression bonuses connected to those modes, it immediately raises the question, was the mode balanced around fun or was it balanced around friction? And that's what I said earlier. You're creating friction where there was none, but you're putting microtransactions in to bypass it. And you're saying you want it to be harder, but you could skip it right away if you just pay money. That is conflicting. If you truly just wanted it to be harder and you made those changes, people might not like it. People would give you feedback on it and say, hey, why did you make it harder? But if at least there were no microtransactions there, we wouldn't have to second guess if there was like some alternative reason that you did this. But when you do both at the same time, it looks a certain way. And I think it is a certain way. I think that's not a coincidence. Here's another great part of the article. It says the criticism was never that just progression is too slow. The criticism is that players felt progression control was reduced or changed while monetized acceleration entered the conversation. Even with EA adding new speed settings, players have pointed out that the setup is not exactly the same as last year's progression control system. That distinction matters. EA can accurately say coach XP requirements remain the same year over year. Players can also accurately argue that the way they control progression pace changed. Those are two different points, and that is why this has become bigger than a settings menu. The real problem is not optional spending. Companies will always argue that purchases are optional. Technically, that may be true. Nobody is forced to spend money to upgrade a coach or player. But that defense misses the point. The concern is not simply that a button exists to spend more money. The concern is whether the mode is now being designed with that button in mind. If progression feels slower, if control options feel reduced, and if the fastest path forward is tied to real money or premium additions, then the purchase is not just optional. It becomes part of the design conversation. That is the issue. That is where players lose trust. Dynasty and Road to Glory were supposed to be modes where time, strategy, recruiting, development, and player choice mattered most. If progression starts feeling like a storefront, then EA has changed the relationship between the player and the mode, and once that line is crossed, it is hard to uncross. And I agree, I think the college football, the whole team, and again, this isn't the devs' fault. The devs don't want this. It's not on them, but, they're just included in this in the sense that, they've built this game. They've helped make the game. They've helped communicate things to us, and I think they had a lot of goodwill with the college football community. Obviously, there were still things we wanted that wasn't there. There were still some things that we wanted to be better. That's always going to be the case, but I think that most of us felt as though, hey, they're listening to us. They've implemented a lot of changes we've asked for, even if it's not all of them. It feels like they've done a lot of good work these 3 years. I mean, this is one of the best playing games on the field that EA has put out, and a lot of people said that. It's not just me saying that. It's a good gameplay game. The changes in Dynasty are good on paper. They look fun, but this stuff now just puts a cloud over all of that, and now the trust is not there anymore. So no matter what you do going forward, microtransactions are probably going to continue to exist. But now we're going to have to question, is everything that is being designed in the game being designed with that in mind? And that is where the trust is probably completely lost, to be honest with you. Had you just implemented microtransactions, people would have still been mad. People would have been pushing back on it for sure. But if nothing else changed, if the progression for Road to Glory and for Dynasty was still unchanged from last year, and you could still progress at the same rates, and it was truly just optional for the person that just doesn't have time, has a lot of money, and says, I just want to skip this, I don't care to grind it. It was purely optional. You wouldn't have as much pushback. And I know some people will say NCAA 14 had some microtransactions. Times are very different. When microtransactions or when DLC was first introduced, there were examples of when DLC actually made sense. You were actually getting the value that you were being charged, and people enjoyed that. When microtransactions were first introduced, they weren't what they are now, and back then we didn't know where it would go. We can view this today knowing where we are and saying we've seen what's happened with my player in 2K. We've seen what's happened with Ultimate Team modes. This is not the worst it's going to be if we don't say something now. Look at what happened with my player, my career over a 10-year span. You had to start spending more and more money to get a more usable character. You had to start spending more and more money on accessories and things for your character. Ultimate Team, when it was first introduced, I think most people would agree Ultimate Team is a cool concept. You can play with past players, current players. Players progress. You have new content that comes out. You can put together a dream team. Team building is fun no matter how you like to play the game. People want to team build. The problem with Ultimate Team is slowly but surely, year over year, it became spend more money, get less. Grind more, get less. There was a time where you could reasonably play the game and build a good team. And if you wanted just to bypass and kind of skip ahead a little bit, you could spend some money. And while, yes, you were spending extra money, you were getting a lot more for your money. You fast forward many years and now the money does not give you what it used to, not even close. The packs are way worse than they used to be. The different alternate methods to create coins for your team without spending money have gone away slowly but surely. The trade block went away. Grinding has paid off less and less. And now when you go in Ultimate Team, it feels like if I don't spend money, it is almost impossible to keep up with other people unless I have an ungodly amount of time to play this mode. And the same thing happened in my career. There was a time where, yeah, if you spent a little money, you can get your player up really nicely, and it was just a nice way to skip ahead a little bit. But if you played the mode, you could still reasonably upgrade them. Every single thing about it wasn't monetized. It felt at least fair, even if you didn't like the fact that there was a way to pay more money. But now, if you play my career, anybody will tell you, if you don't spend money, it feels almost impossible to enjoy the mode. So yes, today in Road to Glory, today in Dynasty, it's not that way, but if we look up in 5 years, who knows where it will be if we don't say something now. And I think the writing's on the wall for Road to Glory, just to be completely honest. I definitely think they're taking this mode online, and look, at least when you take it online, different balancing for sure has to happen when you're playing with other people. Different balancing and things have to be put in place when you go online. Things about the mode are going to change, but the offline only experience of it needs to remain as unchanged as possible, because some people don't want to go online. Some people don't want to spend money. Some people just want to reasonably play like they have in the past and be able to just have fun. So while I am happy that we got them to change even in just a couple days, I do think there's more that they're willing to do. I think they're willing to do much more than what they've done, but the fact that they've already shown that they are willing to at least give us back some of what we lost, I think that means we keep pushing. They're going to give us the fastest setting back. Road to Glory, I'll be honest, I'm not sure where they're going to go there because the mode is quite different than it was last year. But there needs to be some type of an XP setting added back to that mode. As it stands, a lot of people are saying that they can do this and do that, and their progression is much too slow. They can't even take advantage of the cap breakers they're earning and things like that, and that is not good for the mode. As always, I'll keep you guys up to date every step of the way, so make sure to subscribe, and let's keep pushing forward.